What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a hoot and a holler, a true banger of a video. In today's video, we're telling one of those classic stories that I've been sitting on for a long time. A story that I have been waiting for the statute of limitations to expire on. And according to the statute of limitations, this is now safe to discuss with the internet because it's been long enough. Hooray! God bless America, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Please hit that sub. We're about to hit 800K. Even if you hate me, even if you despise me, you want to spit on my grave, at least drop a sub. And also, check out my new brand, Only Gas. Listen, $65 zips. Hey, you know what the drill is. Also, before we dive into the video, let's take a brief moment to talk about my friends at Morgan & Morgan. Now, as some of you guys know, I was recently in a car accident that ended up totaling my car, and I also had to go visit the chiropractor multiple times. Now, when I had that accident, I wish I had known about Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. They work hard to get you the most for your injury, and they never settle for less. They always fight for the largest amount. When you're seriously hurt, your injury could be worth millions, and Morgan & Morgan will never settle for a lowball offer. Just in the past couple of months, Morgan & Morgan has seen verdicts of $12 million in Florida and $26 million in Philadelphia. The fee is completely free unless they win your case, so there's no harm in hitting them up and getting a consultation and seeing if you could potentially receive compensation for your injury. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case using Morgan & Morgan's easy-to-use, high-tech website. They make it easy, no more calling and waiting on hold for a consultation. Morgan & Morgan makes it the simplest process for you to get protected. You can start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just a click. Check out the link in the description or comment section below for more information, and make sure that you have Morgan & Morgan on your side in the event of an injury. Big shout out to them. Now let's dive into the video. Now listen. This is something that I've been sitting on for a long time. I'm 25 years old now, and between the ages of like 15 all the way up to, I'd say 19, I was just a straight up criminal. You know, after that, I should say, I kind of calmed down and I just did drugs. But before that, no, I was actually just a criminal. I was really up to no good in my youth. And this is one of those things that I really had to sit on for a long time. And even in this video, I still have to be very careful about how I discuss it. Because a lot of the people that I did these things with when I was younger, they have jobs now, right? They have adult jobs, they have lives, they have families, and people knew me when I was younger. Some of this is identifiable information. So today's story is what I view as the worst thing I ever did for drug money. And that's car hopping. The reason I view it as the worst thing I ever did for drug money, you know, granted, I've finessed people out of like 10, 20 bucks. I've sold foo-foo bags of weed, this and that. But car hopping is something that has a completely innocent stranger victim. Car hopping is something that I feel particularly bad about. But when I was younger, I was fiending, so I had no regret and no remorse. So let's talk about my first ever time car hopping. You see, nowadays, motherfuckers that are doing this are bald. They just go up and smash the window and they're in and out fast. And in one respect, I get it. You know, it's quick, it's efficient, no one's gonna stop you, so I get it. But that's not the way that we went about it. We were much more nervous. We were scared. We didn't want to get caught. And also, this wasn't a very common thing in the area I grew up in. So we didn't want to go around smashing car windows. Instead, we would just check for unlocked doors. Now, here's the other part of it. You have to be kind of careful where you would do this at. I'm not trying to give advice. You should never do this, especially nowadays. Everyone has a dash cam in their car. There's so many security features in these modern cars. There's cameras everywhere, and the cameras don't suck anymore. They can actually make out your face on the security cameras now. They couldn't do that like 10 years ago. Listen, dude. It's really not worth it. And it was very rare that any of my friends got anything cool. But there was a few times that we got some pretty fun stuff. Now, my first time ever doing this was really early into my degenerate era. This was after my infamous golf club incident, which I'm sure many of you watching this video know about. So I had just dabbled in stealing. I had just gotten into it. And on this fateful day, I was posted up smoking a blunt at a spot that was well known as The Box. I've talked about this spot many times before. It was this little parking lot where sometimes people parked, but mostly it was just high schoolers smoking blunts. It was always sketchy. There was always construction equipment. There was various high school kids posted up there, either waiting for a serve to pull up or just holding it down. It was like a king of the hill type of situation. Like, you had to hold your turf when you were smoking at The Box. Someone else could pull up and start smoking at The Box, and like, that's not okay. You gotta hold that shit down. This was a serious piece of land here. Now, on this day, I was smoking with a couple of kids that I stopped being friends with pretty early on into my degeneracy. These guys were only ever really down to smoke weed, and once I started getting into harder stuff, particularly Xans and taking the cough meds, they kind of just stopped hanging out with me. They didn't really want to associate with me anymore. I was too deep, too hard into it for them. But I was smoking a blunt in The Box with these dudes, and we're going to refer to these two as, what are we going to call them, dude? It's been so long since I've talked about these guys that I honestly don't even remember what I used to call. We're going to call these motherfuckers Thing 1 and Thing 2. Honestly, I don't got a good name for them, so I'm chilling with Thing 1 and Thing 2, and we're smoking up in the parking lot, right? We're smoking this blunt, and we're just having an old chat, and this was like pretty shortly after the golf club incident. So we had been dabbling in stealing, and we were getting kind of into it. We would go to stores and we would steal all the time, and we were hyped because this was like a money glitch to us. We had no way of making money. We didn't want to get jobs. Our parents would give us like $10 if we asked for money. This was the glitch. This was the method. We couldn't believe that we could just go take shit. Like, it was like a baby gaining consciousness for the first time. Us realizing that we could just steal things for profit, it was an awakening. It was a spiritual awakening. However, Thing 1 and Thing 2 were never really down, or as down as I was. You see, I was down for pretty much whatever. If it resulted in me getting high or an extra $20 in my pocket, which would then result in me getting high, I was probably down to do it. And as we're chilling at The Box, I'm just kind of looking around at the cars around me. And I had friends that had gotten into car hopping. I had friends that did it all the time. I remember freshman year of homecoming, one of the funniest things was a couple of dudes that I wasn't really friends with these kids yet. Right? But a couple of dudes that I knew went outside and they just hit cars in the parking lot. They were going around just checking for cars that were unlocked. And they got into a couple. And it was one of the just most mind-boggling things to me. I was like, damn, they're really doing that shit? But it had stuck in my mind. I had remembered that. And once I really started stealing stuff, once I had gone into someone's garage and stolen a set of golf clubs out of there, I was like, well, what's the difference in going in a car? It's the same thing. You know, looking back at it, damn, I was a degenerate-ass kid. I was a terrible kid. Someone should have shot my little dumbass, you know, walking on their property like that. That would have taught me a lesson. I don't know. But either way, I'm sitting there and I'm smoking the blunt and I'm thinking like, damn, man, The Box. It's kind of a good spot to car hop. And I proposed Thing 1 and Thing 2. I say, boys, listen, like, we could look through these cars. We could really come up. I kind of pitched it to him in the most polite way possible. Like, my good sirs, how about we take a gander in a glove box or two? And they were not really down for it. They had no interest. They were like, hell nah, dude. Like, it's broad daylight. This is sketchy. Like, what if someone comes out? They just kept throwing out excuses. But this was a time in my life where I didn't take any excuses. If I wanted to steal some shit, I was stealing some shit. And I had just smoked this blunt with the homies Thing 1 and Thing 2. And listen, nowadays, I smoke a joint or I get faded, however it is, and I feel normal. It's a pretty normal, routine thing for me. But this was still in my infancy, my stoner infancy. Back in these days, I could smoke a blunt and it made me feel like King Von. I was up to no good. I was demonic at this point. So after I smoked that blunt, I was fried. I had some balls. I was like, dude, fuck it. I'm gonna just, we're already over here standing by these cars. I haven't seen anyone moving around. I'm gonna try some door handles. Now, here's the thing. I've car hopped. How many times have I done it total? Let me really reflect here. It's not that many. I've only done it, I'd say I could count it in one hand, like fingers wise. I'd say 5. because I know, okay, so this is the first time I did it. I've done it in a parking garage in downtown, which was not a good idea. Not downtown Chicago, but like downtown little suburb area, which was not a good idea. I've also done it, okay, no, we're not going to run through all the locations here. There's definitely a Jake watching this, just like with his notepad out. He's like, write that down. Write that down. We connect the dots. Write that down. We've got a fucking Rico act on Goblin. No, all right, we're not going to run through all the locations. Listen, moral of the story is, this was my first time doing it, so I didn't really know what I was doing or, like, what to look for or anything. I just figured, like, hey, find an unlocked car door, you know, maybe open the glove box, and if they have some shit, they have some shit. That's what I expected. So I'm looking at these cars, and in the parking lot, I remember there was only 3 cars parked up. And granted, there wasn't many spaces available at the box. There was only maybe 5 open spots because it was construction equipment and garbage taking up the other ones. So there was 3 cars parked up. I remember so fucking well. There was a pickup truck. It was like a Chevy or some shit. I don't really know trucks that well. It was a pickup truck, right? Then, after that, there was a pretty nice car that probably should have been in a garage. It was like an Audi. I don't know what kind of Audi. I don't know the Audis that well. If it was a Mercedes or like a Beamer, I could probably tell you. But the Audis, I don't know. And then, last but not least, there was one of those little 4-door Pontiacs. Bro, what is it? Like the Pontiac Grand Prix? Oh, my God. Listen. I remember this car so vividly because it's the first car that I ever hit. It's the first time that I ever went inside of someone's car and acquired loot. It was, dude, I felt like I was playing Tarkov. Listen, I went up, and the first car I tried was the Pontiac. The very first fucking car that I ever tried to do this on was a Pontiac, and lo and behold, the doors are unlocked. And this is one of those old Pontiacs. This isn't like, well, actually, I guess all Pontiacs are old. They've been dead for a minute, huh? I don't know. Either way, listen, this wasn't one of those cars that would, like, auto-lock itself, you know? So this wasn't one of those cars that detected where your key was. This car had no idea. This car didn't detect anything. It was the classic, like, degen unemployed tweaker car. If you see someone driving around in an old, rusty Grand Prix, you know that they're probably going to light a drug test up like a Christmas tree, and they're definitely unemployed. It's not up for debate. I don't want to hear it. Pontiac drivers, drop your comments. Hey, you know who you are, and you can admit that you probably fit that category. But either way, I opened the door, and this whip is filthy. I couldn't believe that the door just came open. I was in disbelief. I remember I looked over at the homies, Thing 1 and Thing 2, and they just looked at me wide-eyed. They couldn't fucking believe that this was really happening. So they're just standing there, and they don't really know what to do. They didn't say anything to me. They didn't come over. They didn't want anything to do with this car. Meanwhile, I was down as fuck for it. I was super duper down. And I was also terrified at the same time because, mind you, I had just gotten caught for the golf club thing. So I just feel this rush going through me, this nervousness like nothing I've ever felt before. It's like when you're a kid and you're like going in for the first kiss. That shit's horrifying, dog. That's how I felt hitting this car. It felt like I was losing my virginity. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely downright terrified. This car was like a bad bitch. I was scared of it. No, I opened the glove box first. I went straight for the glove box because that's like how I imagine doing it. I imagine that when you break into a car, you go for the glove box, and you go for like the middle compartment, and then you leave, right? I didn't look around very thoroughly. I didn't go for the back seat. I just went for those 2 compartments and got the fuck out. And I opened the glove box, and the first thing I found was a pepper spray canister. It was one of those little, like, keychain ones. One of the ones that a girl probably puts on her purse or some shit. And it was, oh, let me tell you. At this time, I didn't know anything about any sort of weapons. I'd never touched a taser, a gun. I'd been in, like, a few fights, but, like, not real ones, you know? It's like those kid fights where, like, you punch each other a couple times and, like, maybe you shove each other and then you call each other a pussy, even though you're both acting like pussies. And then you know how it goes. Listen, pepper spray being in my hands, all right? It was unbelievable. I felt like I was Gollum and I had the ring in my hands. I couldn't believe it. I had all the power in the world. If someone came up to try to stop me looting this car, I could just turn around and spray him in the fucking face. I could spray him in the cock, dude. That would probably sting like hell. I could ruin their day. I had all the power I could bring this shit to school. And I did bring it to school, mind you. I thought it was cool. I thought it was badass. I was like, yo, I got the pepper spray, dog. Like, listen, dude. Teachers start tweaking, you assign too much homework, I'm spraying his dumb ass, you know? So I throw the pepper spray in my hoodie and I keep looking. I'm like, shit, dude, there's got to be something else in here. And there's pretty much nothing else besides just random paperwork in the glove box. It's junk. I open the middle compartment, and in the little middle compartment, there's pretty much nothing except empty cigarette packs, receipts, wrappers of random shit, but there was a little bit of change at the bottom. There was some bills. I'm talking like $3. And then there was coins in the cup holder and in the middle compartment. I scooped all that shit up. Listen, I was desperate. I would take the pennies. I didn't care. There could be a fragment of a penny on the ground. I would harvest that. I don't care. I'm taking any loot, dude. It's like when you just start a new game and like you just hit loot all every enemy you kill. You got to take all the shit. That's me, dude. New Skyrim save. I'm taking all the loot. Yeah, I pick up the plates, dude. Hell yeah, I take everything. So I grab all that shit, bro. I grab all the coins. I grab the like $3 and I grab the pepper spray. And I got the fuck up out of there, dude. I closed the car door. I looked over to my homies and we just started walking. We didn't want to run, but we started speed walking at a very brisk pace, which honestly is probably way more sketchy than either just walking or running would be. Because if you're running, it's like, oh, those are just some kids. Like they're going to the park. They're playing tag or some shit. And then we're walking. It's like, oh, those are just some kids, you know, they're just walking to their friend's house. They're walking to the store to get some snacks. But if we're speed walking, it's like, oh, those are those kids. Those are those kids probably just broke into some shit. Those kids, they probably have older brothers that sell low-grade marijuana. Those kids are no good. Those are the kids that wear huff socks, even though they don't smoke weed. The bad kids, all right? That's what we look like as we're walking down the street, speed walking, briskest pace we've ever been at. Now, thing one and thing two, as we were walking away, they kept asking me what I got. And I told them, I'm like, bro, not shit. I'm not going to lie. But I showed them the pepper spray. And the pepper spray was fucking hype. So we're sitting there talking to each other, and we're like, yo, what would it be like to be pepper sprayed? Like, dude, we should try it. And we're all begging, like, yo, one of you guys just be a bitch. Like, take one for the team. We got to test this pepper spray. So first we did a little test spray. We just sprayed that shit in the air. And it's thick. And we didn't really account for the wind. So we sprayed the pepper spray, and we saw it, like, go into the air. It's thick, dude. It's weird. It's not like you're spraying Febreze. It's like you see it in the air. It's almost like chunky. And I don't know how to describe it. But either way, I just remember I saw that shit in the air. And the wind just started blowing it back towards us, and we all just ran. We literally just booked it. We're like, fuck, yo, I'm not getting pepper sprayed, dude. We fucking booked it, dude. We dipped on out of there. So we ran, like, not that far, probably a block up, and we're like, yo, that was kind of sick. After my homies watched me do it, then they were more down for it. And this was probably the last crime that I ever committed with these guys. Because after this, pretty shortly after this is when I really got into doing Xanax and doing a lot of DXM. And these guys stopped hanging out with me. We actually kind of had a little bit of beef. There was a falling out between us. It was just not good. It was not good. I think these guys are like, they have adult jobs now, I'm pretty sure. I never reconnected with either of these dudes. But either way, after this, you know, we'd fucked around with the pepper spray. I'd gotten my, like, $3.62, and we went our separate ways. I went back to the crib. But it was still pretty early in the day, and I was pretty gassed up off what I had just done. I'm not going to lie. I was not done yet. I said, nope. We're stepping out for round 2, baby. And that's exactly what I did. You see, later that night, I hit up Cody. And Cody and I had just met each other. We were pretty good friends already. We got along pretty well, but we had just met each other. So I hit up Cody and I asked if he wanted a sesh. I went on over to his house and I had a little bit of cash, so I threw in my extra $3.62. And I told him the story. I told him and his brother the story of what I'd done. And his brother was giving me the pro tips. He's like, oh, we used to do that shit all the time when I was younger. And he's giving me the tips. He's like, listen, like, these are the kind of cars you got to look for. Like, these are the kind of, like, this is where to look. You know, I used to find a lot of shit in the back seat pocket was a spot that he told me to look in. He told me look in the cracks to the seats. A lot of people drop change down there and don't even realize it. They never look for it, but you can find hella shit in there. So I'm getting all these pro tips. And I'm like, dude, I got to put this shit to use again. Now, I had gone over there, and I only had like $15 to buy some weed. So we grabbed some bud, And, I threw in. Cody had a little bit of bud, so he matched me, and we smoked up. And we smoked pretty much all the weed I had. And I was about to go home empty-handed, go home with no weed, and I'm like, bro, what am I thinking right here? I just discovered the glitch, and I'm not about to abuse it? Like, hold the fuck on. So I tell Cody, I'm like, listen, bro. Listen, my guy. I'm going to have to go generate some income. I'm going to have to go generate some supplemental income. I'm going to have to go hit a car. And I asked Cody, I'm like, man, should we go do this shit right now? And he was not down for it. He's like, dude, it's kind of sketchy over here. You probably shouldn't go do that over here. But as we're having this conversation, a motherfucker who I knew was going to be down to do it with me pulled up. A motherfucker who we're going to refer to, what are we going to call him? Let's just call him Julian, Julian, I haven't seen in so many years that I'm pretty sure I could just, refer to as such. You see, Julian was the dude who gave me liquid acid for the first time. If you guys remember that story, I don't remember what I called him in that story, but either way, we're just going to call him Julian here. Julian gave me liquid acid for the first time, and he comes through, and he kind of barges in on our conversation. I fill him in, and he's like, oh, dude, I'll come with you. I'll help you out. I'll look out for you. So we go on a little walk. We go on a little blunt smoking walk, quote unquote, we'll be back. And we rolled up the last of the weed we had, which was essentially just what Julian had brought over, because I had already smoked all mine in 3 blunts. So we got out of there and we take a little stroll, and near Cody's house was this apartment complex. It was a big apartment complex, and the parking lot was massive. Massive enough where there were certain little blind spot areas of it. Areas where none of the windows from the apartments would really see the lot. Areas that were covered. They had a roof over them. It wasn't a full garage, but they had a roof over them, which just kind of added to the shadiness of it, added to the ease of access. So we take a walk down the street, and we go over there. And I try it again. I tried a couple more cars, but this time they were locked. This time everything was locked. You see, though I've only done this a handful of times, what I've learned is most people do just lock their fucking cars, I was expecting, by the sounds of it, by the way my homies were gassing it up to me, it was like, damn, I guess just everyone forgets to lock their cars. But no, that's not really the case. It's just every now and then I'd get lucky and find a unlocked car. So we had walked over to this apartment complex, and I try a couple cars. We go to the back corner, which was a spot that we were familiar with. We'd walked over here and smoked plenty of times before, so this was not a big deal. So we walked over there, and we're chilling, and he's lookout, right? He's up in the grass as I walk down onto the asphalt, and I'm going into the corner, and there's a little dumpster right in the corner by this roof, and there's a few cars just parked up in the corner, and I go up, and I go in between these 2 cars, and I try the passenger door of one and then the driver's door of the other. They're both locked. I'm like, fuck. Go over to the next cars. They're both locked. I'm like, fuck. No, I only had the balls to try 4 or 5 cars, because after I tried a couple, there was people that started driving past. This was a really big apartment complex, and the parking lot was pretty active, and it also it wasn't quite late enough to do this. It was definitely dark, and it was it was probably 7 or 8 p.m. I don't really remember what time of day this was, but it was not late enough for the parking lot to be dead. So it was sketchy. And after a car drove past me and I had to just kind of stand there AFK like an NPC, I was like, nah, we're wrapping it up here, Julian. Let's go the fuck back to Cody's. I'm just going home empty-handed. So we go back to Cody's, and I ended up actually fandangling a front from his brother, which was fantastic. I said, listen, dude, somebody get you tomorrow. He was like, bet. He sent my ass home packing. But that's what started my kick for car hopping. And I did it maybe 4 or 5 times. And I view it personally as the worst thing I ever did for drug money, because stealing from innocent people is an unfortunate thing. Go steal from a business. Steal from Walmart. They don't care. Go to Target. They don't give it. Best Buy, dude. Come on. Meijer. I mean, there's so many places you could go to steal. It doesn't matter. GameStop, Granted, all the games are behind the counter, but if you have a gun, you can steal from pretty much anywhere. No, don't get any ideas. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one. Deuces.